SaharaTV. My name is Rudolph Okonkwo. In 2009, the federal government signed an agreement with ASUU aimed at reversing the decay in the Nigerian university system. It involved injecting 1.5 trillion over 3 years into the university system in Nigeria. On January 24, 2012, the federal government agreed to inject 100 billion naira into the universities in the first month, and by the end of the year to inject a total of 300 billion. That did not happen. On July 2nd of this year, ASUU went on strike and has continued to be on strike. Nigerian students in government universities have been at home ever since. Our guest today is the president of the National Association of Nigerian Students, Mr. Yinka Gbadebo. Mr. Gbadebo, welcome to SaharaTV.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Let me start by asking you, where is the negotiation now with the federal government? Where are things?
Well, as it stands now, to the best of my own knowledge, the negotiation between the federal government and the ASUU has broken down. ASUU has walked out of the negotiation table, the federal government, based on the fact that some of the issues that ASUU are agitating for has not yet been addressed by the federal government. So I think that was the reason why ASUU had to, walk out of the negotiation table. Though we are not comfortable with the fact that they have walked out, but that is where it stands now. And yesterday, the federal government, in its maybe in its bid to bring ASUU back to the negotiation table, has removed the chairman of the Needs Assessment Committee, Governor Gabriel Suzwan of Benue State, and he has been replaced with the vice president of the country, who has been saddled with the responsibility of bringing back ASUU to the table so that the issues can be resolved.
Are you confident that the vice president will do something different?
Well, you cannot say you are confident, and you cannot say you are not confident, because when somebody is given an assignment to carry it out, you don't castigate or you repose confidence in such persons until that person has been able to do one or two things. If he in the next 1 week, we'll be able to know whether the vice president of the country is leading us to the end of this strike or not. So for now, I think we should just leave him to work for some time, and let's see what comes out in the next 1 week.
Now, ASUU president, he said that ASUU is fighting for Nigerian students, and also that Nigerian students are behind ASUU, saying that they should continue to fight. Are you and the students that you lead behind ASUU?
Well, I will categorize my response to this question into two. If we are saying we're in support of ASUU, that means we are in support of some aspects of their demands. The aspects that concerns directly and that affects directly the life of Nigerian students, the welfareism of Nigerian students, the issue of infrastructures, libraries, hostels, laboratory equipment, and all that. We are in support of that. There is no negotiation about that. We are very much in support of it. But the issue of, hand allowances, we as students, we are saying if the issue of hand allowances is what is stalling the negotiation between the federal government and ASUU, then we will say we are not in support of that. And if somebody has taken to the barbing salon, claiming to be barbing my head without me knowing, without my presence, then I think something is wrong somewhere. Fage cannot say that we are the ones urging them to continue striking, because we are the ones at the receiving end of the strike. Our intention is to, come to the university, gain knowledge, and leave the university as at when due. The contractual agreement that we had with the management is basically what we are after. 4-year course, how do we stop this issue of 4-year courses turning into 6-year courses through this ASUU strike? And what we are simply saying is this: the demands are holistic, the demands of ASUU are noble, but the approach at which they want to get this thing done are affecting our own life as Nigerian students. You know, we have been at home for 2 months now, doing virtually nothing, and idle hand is the devil's workshop. You know, and when you look at it critically, when you are asking for your own right, you should not do it in such a way that it will affect my own right as a student. My right as a student entails the fact that I have the liberty and I have to be on campus not longer than the period that I'm supposed to stay on campus. I have the right as a student to have an uninterrupted academic calendar. And this strike, year in, year out, have become something that we are no longer happy about. We are telling ASUU, why can't you devise other means of agitating for your rights from government? For instance, we have suggested to us that, okay, instead of going on strike year in, year out, because it is a general knowledge now that ASUU strike has become an annual festival in Nigeria. Instead of, striking year in, year out, why can't you devise another means?
Can you tell them another? Can you give us another way they could do that?
To me, if ASUU can take the federal government to court, I think a competent court of jurisdiction will look at the merit of their cases. And if a federal high court can give an injunction to the government of Nigeria that the government should do this, having studied the merit of the demands of ASUU, I think no government has the right under the laws of the country to disobey court order. Nobody is above the law. That's the simple truth. So, but when you talk about striking, strike today, strike tomorrow, and all that, it gives us some concerns, as if all these strike actions, maybe there are political undertones to it. And when you look at it critically, let's be objective in our analysis here. When you look at it critically, the moment ASUU goes on strike, you will see some political parties declaring support for ASUU. You will see some politicians throwing their weight behind ASUU. So it now gives us maybe the opportunity to now start thinking that, okay, maybe even these strikes, maybe they have political undertone. So that's why we say, take the government to court. Get a court injunction for government to do what you want to do, and don't stop affecting our lives as students with all these strikes. We are tired of staying at home.
Now, Yinka, let's expand this discussion, because while ASUU is on strike, students who are attending the private universities, they continue to go to school. So, so I want to ask you, what do you think is wrong here? Do you think that there is something that the federal government is doing wrong with the federal system of education, the federal universities, that is different from what the private schools are doing? Are you willing to ask for changes so that you can have a period of academic period that won't be interrupted by strike? For instance, example of one of the things that have been suggested is that the school fees that students are paying in federal universities are nothing compared to what is happening at the private schools, and that because there's not enough money, that may be why there's no funding that is leading to this all this strike. What do you think about them? Yinka, are you still there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, go ahead.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, to me, I think every right-thinking Nigerian will know that the issue of funding in the educational sector in Nigeria is not up to what it's supposed to be. That being said, private universities, when you look at the private universities critically, they are privately, owned businesses. They run private universities in Nigeria as businesses, and there is no businessman that will want his business to crash. So they will always want to have their profit at the end of the day. So that is why they charge exorbitant prices, exorbitant tuition fees and all that. But in public schools, we will never support that increment should come on the issue of our school fees. We will not support any increment in school fees. But government should, as a matter of urgency, declare emergency in the education sector. it is not all about funding alone. There are a lot of things that is wrong with the education sector in Nigeria. And that is why we are saying that even if 10 trillion is injected into the education sector in Nigeria today, with the level of corruption that have pervaded the society, that may not be the solution. Some people may just sit down on the money and they squander it for their personal purposes. So what we are saying is, fine, government should, as a matter of fact, declare an emergency in the education sector. Government should, as a matter of urgency, increase funding, of the education sector. But to me, we have to be realistic in some of these demands. Rome was not built in a day. All the demands that we have placed at the table of government have never said they are not going to do it. But when 100 billion naira has been made available, 30 billion naira for your hand allowances, I think with that, we can continue negotiation and press hard through other options for government to see to it that they inject fund into the education system in Nigeria. If they are claiming to us that when they increase the funding to the university system, they will increase our school fees, we will say no to that, because the UNESCO recommendation for every nation across the world is that 26% of the budget should be allocated to education. But if they are saying they cannot do that, they should bring something substantial on board, and they should put up a mechanism that will monitor the funds that are being released to our university. Because when you look at it critically, at times government just releases funds without a mechanism that will monitor that the funds that they have released are being used for the purposes for which they are meant for. The cases abound in this country when government will release also amount of millions to universities, to polytechnics, to colleges of education, and the administrators that are supposed to, make use of such funds will just lodge it in a bank account, maybe for 6 months, in a fixed deposit account, and they will be collecting the interest on a monthly basis. So government on its own should equally have a monitoring mechanism that will monitor any funds that is being received by all these administrators and management of our educational sector in Nigeria. So to me, issue of funding, fine, government is not doing well in that aspect. Then mechanism for monitoring of projects and monitoring of whatever is being released is not there. Government should, as a matter of urgency, do that for us. And government should not even think about increasing the tuition fee on our in our public universities for now.
Now, Yinka, you threatened, I saw in the news, that NANS will shut down private universities. Is that true? And how do you intend to do that?
Nigeria is a very peculiar country. And when a messenger has given a message out, the norms in Nigeria is for people to leave the message and start running after and calling for the head of the messenger through whatever means available to them. I want to state it categorically that statement never emanated from the National Secretariat of NANS. That statement, like many other statements, are fallacious statements being sponsored by the academic staff of universities, Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASUU, to smear our image. How will a right-thinking president of NANS, who is well knowledgeable, who is well rooted, think that the solution to the ongoing ASUU strike is to lock down private university? I never said that, but ASUU sponsored that statement in the name of NANS so that people can start fighting our leadership from north to south to east to the west. They have been doing a lot of things against my person, because when this ASUU strike started, they called on me to come and lead a protest in their support. And I said, no, how will I support your strike when your strike has taken me out of the school? When in years past we have not had it so good with ASUU, when in years past tuition fees will be increased on our campuses, and in our own struggle ASUU has not been there for us, when in years past ASUU we criminally connive with management of our institutions to rusticate, expel and suspend union activists on campus, How will I support a strike by Academic Staff Union of Nigeria, Academic Staff Union of Universities, when their members harass my students on a daily basis on our campuses? When their members will ask students to come and pay 10,000 naira before you can pass their courses? When their members will ask my female students to come and sleep with them before you can pass their courses? So I told them in clear terms that I am not going to support the ASUU strike with any protest. I would rather remain silent and be watching when you do your thing, because you have never been there for us as an organization. When my Senate president died, the Senate president of the National Association of Nigerian Students, I know you are aware, he died on the 13th of June this year. When he died, alongside other 4 executive members of this organization, there was no single communication of condolence from ASUU to NANS. But when the Asiwaju's mother died in Lagos, ASUU was, one of the first visitors to go there on condolence visit. And maybe 6 days later, when they started their strike, they called on me that I should come over to support them. We should lead a protest in their support. And I said, no, I cannot be there for you when you're not there for me. We have our own agitations, we have our own demands, and we have our own scientific means that we have been using to, actualize most of our demands, to get our demands acceded to by management of institutions and government. The latest attack that have been meted out to me by ASUU was that publication that came out on your website some few days ago, that I have been impeached. It was sponsored by ASUU. I know that, because they have promised that they are going to discredit my leadership, and they have done everything to discredit my leadership. But we are strong, and our students all over the country knows what we have been doing, and our students knows that their struggles are our struggles, their pains are our pains. And wherever I'm being called on, whenever a student is being victimized across Nigeria, across our campuses in Nigeria, I've always been there. Whenever my students are having problems across the country, from Maiduguri to Sokoto to Port Harcourt to Calabar to Lagos to Ibadan to Uyo, I've always been there for my students. So my students knows the truth. And when you know the truth will set you free. Instead of facing the message that I've passed to them, instead of them to correct their own misdemeanors, they are after my head. They are attacking my personality.
Yinka, we don't have a lot of time left. Let me ask you. We know there is an exodus of children of the rich and the powerful in Nigeria from the federal university system. And we know they spend a lot of money in schools, like in schools in Ghana and in schools abroad. What is the impact of that to the whole system of universities in Nigeria?
Well, I want to say that it is very pathetic that we have found ourselves in such a situation. When you talk about the children of the rich and the children of the mighty, it boils down on the same corruption that we are talking about. How do you classify yourself as the rich and the mighty in a society that is supposed to be an egalitarian society? And when you look at it critically, all these people, when they send their children to private universities, to schools abroad, that's why they are not even bothered about what happens to education in Nigeria. And it's not about government functionaries alone. It's not about even the so-called rich and the mighty alone. Even most of our lecturers now have their children studying in private universities. And that is why when we tell them to go back to classroom, they think we don't know what we are talking about. Their children are in private universities. And if this situation, if this trend is not hurriedly, nipped in the bud, would continue moving from a fry pan to fire. The effect is that the fortune of education in Nigeria continues to dwindle, while Nigerians and other people around Africa, most importantly, is the situation is not peculiar to Nigeria alone. Africans, you find out that in London today, London is one of the Meccas and Jerusalems of Nigerian students who has, rich parents that can sponsor them there. And the foreign exchange that UK is earning from tertiary education alone when you look at it critically, is something that if people that are taking the funds to pay for the school fees of their children and what in those places, if they can invest such money in Nigeria and in Africa at large, I think we can say in the next 10 years, the educational sector in Nigeria and in Africa will be one of the best in the world. Fine, there are a lot of private schools, private universities in Nigeria today, but they are just too expensive for an average man on the street.
Now,
So
Yinka, one last question. We have to end it here. One last question. So, for students who are watching you, the feeling I get out there is that NANS is incapable of influencing this situation, this stalemate. Is there anything that you and your organization can do to hasten the end to this strike, or are you incapable of doing anything?
Well, for people that are saying that we are incapable, I want to say that they have not been in touch with current realities, because since this strike started, all what everybody wanted us to do is to go to the street and protest. And we have reasons why we have not led our students out on protest. As far as we are concerned, the present leadership of NANS, we are not shy from protesting. In fact, I am one NANS president that have led as many protests as possible. I've led protests than any NANS president in the last 10 years. So it's not as if we are afraid of protesting, but after the protest, what next? Protest should be the last weapon that we can use. And when you go to the street without getting ready, without, massively mobilizing, without the ability to sustain the protest, then the protest will just be like a madman making noise on the street. But when you are prepared, when you have, massively mobilized, and you are sure that if students are gathering here today, we will not leave the streets if it takes us 1 week, 2 weeks, that we are going to continue until the issues have been resolved. But when we are not yet there, we cannot lead students on protest. But that does not mean we are doing nothing. We have been holding meetings with everybody that is involved, government, representatives of ASUU. But I cannot say categorically that I've met with the leadership of ASUU, because the leadership of ASUU is personified in Professor Fage. And we have written him. All what people are reading on the pages of newspaper at times, I will just read them and I will laugh. The same day we wrote to government that we want to meet with government to know the level at which the issues are now, was the same day that we wrote to ASUU president. Government received us, they gave us all the documentations, all the status updates that that we needed, and they told us to go and meet ASUU and cross-check the document with what they have given to us. Until today, the president of ASUU has refused to agree for a meeting between the leadership of NANS and leadership of ASUU. What do we do from there? I have taken a step further. By the special grace of God, in the next few days, we as an organization, we are taking both ASUU and the federal government to court for breaching of the contractual agreement that they had with us, that we are going to, for social science courses, we're going to spend 4 years, for medicine, 6 years, for law, 5 years. And for some of us that are, diploma students, 2 years, that contractual agreement has been breached. And if you can willfully breach a contractual agreement, for every breach of contract, there must be compensation that must be paid. So if ASUU is demanding for their own emolument and entitlement from government, and government is saying this is what we have, we cannot do it, we cannot afford to pay what you are asking for, and we, as students, have been relegated to the barest minimum. We are not consulted. We don't even, if not up until when we met with government, we don't even know the content of all this agreement that we're talking about. We have been relegated. And if we have been relegated and we are the ones bearing the brunt of this ASUU strike, government and ASUU should be able to pay compensation to Nigerian students for making us stay at home when we are supposed to be on campus.
All right.
After the institution of the court case, then maybe we can start thinking about leading a mass protest. And when we are leading protests, we have considered all our options, and that's why we are here to protest. When we are leading a protest, we must not lead a protest that will end just like the ones that JAV and other unions have been having. That they just go on the street, hold placard, make noise for 3 hours, and go back to their different homes. No, that kind of protest cannot have the desired effect. For a protest to have the desired effect, everybody must be ready to stay on the street for as long as the issues are yet to be resolved. And that is what I think has not made us to go to the streets. And in going to the street equally, some people in some quarters will think that we are going to the street to attack the federal government. No, we are going to the street against both federal government and ASUU if at the end of the day we discover that it becomes necessary for us to go to the street. But for now, it has not yet gotten to that. And as NANS president, we have heard of protests here and there in the last few months under my leadership that the madmen of the Nigerian police would just come around and open fire on my students. And people are not equally thinking that as a leader, I have the duty not to allow any of my students to get killed in a protest. So we are equally, weighing all these our options, and by the special grace of God, I think with the court action that we are about to institute, people would see that we are not sitting down on the issue of the ASUU strike while the strike is ongoing. Our major aim, our major objective, and our sole wish is that Nigerian students needs to go back to campus, and our lecturers should, in the interest of students, take what is on ground now, resume negotiation with governments, and open our universities so that we can continue studying while they continue with the negotiation with governments, and while they equally think deeply to fashion out other means by which they can actualize their demands.
All right, Yinka, we have to stop it here. Thank you so much for coming on Sahara TV.
Thank you very much. You're welcome.
And as this continues, we will talk to you again, okay?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
That was Yinka Gbadebo, who is the president of the NANS, National Association of Nigerian Students, talking to us. When we come back, we're going to talk to the representative of the government, who will give us the perspective of the government. Stay tuned.